This I'm going to call the Under the Weather edition. I am not well. Oh my goodness. I'm well enough to function, don't get me wrong. But boy, whew. Mike was sick last week, and he was sick enough to come home from the office early one day, which never happens. Ever. So I knew he felt really crummy. And by 2 days ago, Liam had it, and I think he might be on the upswing now. I'm hoping that yesterday was his bottoming out with it, because boy, he had a rough day yesterday. And I'm sure that wasn't helped by the fact that I had a really nasty feeling day yesterday. So I'm sitting down, relaxing. I wanted to show you my wrap up for One Book July. I cannot believe it's August 1st. Man, school starts in like 3 weeks. So I am trying to beat a storm. It keeps thundering, but we'll be darned if we can figure out where it's coming from. So it's a ninja storm. I don't know where it's coming from, but it sounds like it's coming. So I'm going to try to get this in real quick. Some of this you guys have seen. I showed the new setup for my small book that I used for One Book July, my field note size Christopher Columbus notebook. I showed the new setup for that. I showed the new setup in my creme brulee notebook for August. But I set things up in those two books the way I did, mostly because of One Book July. So I just kind of wanted to show you how I got from point A to point B, as far as I learned this from One Book July, so when I was setting these up, this is what I did. Does that make sense? So I probably ask you 100 times if something that I say makes sense, because my brain is, wow. A lot of head fog today, you guys. A lot of head fog. So show us what you have done now that it's August. Show us what you're going to take from One Book July that you learned and apply moving forward. Maybe something that you tried in One Book July that you couldn't stand, so you will never be doing again. I learned a lot. I really, really learned a lot. I think my two biggest things were learning that sometimes hitting the reset button is absolutely necessary, and having a brain dump notebook is necessary. Several people had asked me what I mean by that, by the way. A brain dump notebook is just, to me at least, this is how I use a brain dump notebook. It is a notebook that I am not overly concerned if I am neat in. It's just about getting out of your brain what is tumbling around in your brain. Einstein said, and he would know, right? Einstein said that your brain is for thinking, not for storage. And if you know anything about the GTD system by David Allen, follows the same kind of philosophy. Your brain is not a storage container for tasks and projects. Your brain is for using to think through and do those tasks and those projects. And I had completely gotten away from just sitting down with a piece of paper and getting everything out of my head that was tumbling around in my head. So having then the one notebook in One Book July, I think because I was out of pre-printed inserts, I used the DIY Fish Midori Traveler's Notebook inserts. I've also used the personal size Filofax DIY Fish inserts, and I love them, absolutely love them. Just because of the way I'm wired, I am not likely to do just to get everything out of my head onto those inserts. My brain prefers pre-printed inserts, everything like a structural framework organized for me to fill in, because then I don't miss things. But if I don't take the opposite of that, which is just get everything out of my brain onto a piece of paper, don't organize it, don't think about it too much. I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to remember that, I found out this was on that day, I had this idea, I want to write this essay, I want to check into this article. Just all that stuff that, oh yeah, I got to remember to do that, or this idea, I don't want to forget it. I have to remember that Wednesday is this thing. That will keep tumbling around in my head. For me, dumping that stuff out onto a piece of paper in no certain order, not stopping to organize it as I go, just boom, 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 boom. until I can't think of anything else that I need to get out of my brain in that moment is key. I need that because otherwise things slip through the cracks. And then I can either walk away from it for a little while or right then, okay, this thing, when do I need to do that? Oh, this changed on this day. Get into my inserts and put those things where they belong in an organized manner. The key to the whole thing is not organizing it while you're doing it, at least for me. If I think, oh yeah, I need to do that, what day do I want to do that? I wanted to write this post, what day do I want? I can't stop and think about when I want to write a certain post, or when can I make time to write that essay, or anything like that. If I stop in the middle of a brain dump to organize, the brain dump stops, and then I still have all those things tumbling around in my head. So that to me is what a brain dump is, just getting it all out. It doesn't have to be neat, should not be organized, not stopping to organize it in the middle of doing it, maybe letting it marinate for an hour or so, walk away from it for a little bit, and then going back to it and making sure I get all those things put into my planner pages somewhere. One thing I do want to add that I have not added yet to my main planner, my creme brulee setup, is like a someday maybe list. Ideas that I've had that aren't going to happen right now, or things that I want to do that aren't going to happen right now, but I want them to happen. I've been crossing things off my brain dump list as I add them to my planner. And I either need to go through and highlight those someday maybe kind of things, or I need to put a page in my notebook for that. So I haven't done that yet. I need to write that down when I do a brain dump, don't I? So I'm babbling because I babble anyway, but being sick doesn't help. So I hope you guys enjoyed One Book July. I have enjoyed it so much. It has been really, really way more. I never even realized how much I would enjoy seeing what everybody else was liking about it, what everybody else wasn't liking about it, how creative everybody got with it. I got a lot of joy out of watching people try something new. I knew I would enjoy trying something new, but I had no idea how much I would enjoy watching other people's joy in trying something new. So, and that whole trying something new plays into that reset button. Sometimes if you're struggling with your planner, and I wasn't, I was going along just fine, but choosing to do things in a different way helps you realize how your brain works. And if your planner is not working for you, it is really, Romany put it, I think, really well. At least to me, if my planner isn't working for me, I know that it's not the planner. It's something in my brain, something in the process of the way I'm handling things is not working for me. So I need to stop, hit the reset button, start over from scratch, even if that means a plain old spiral notebook, or a little pocket notebook. Simple, plain, start from there, see what I like, see what I don't like, and then integrate that into a planner, or find a system to put into my planner that matches what my brain likes and what helps me be productive and what helps me keep track of things. Hitting the reset button for One Book July, even though I was going along just fine, did me a world of good. Absolute world of good. First of all, it kicked me out of that June malaise that I get. It's, the shifting of everybody being out of school and trying to work from home and having everybody home more often, plans being made at the last minute a lot and at different times than usual because we don't have school schedules to work around. That really puts me into a funk. By about the third, fourth week of June, every summer like clockwork, I just get really down. And it's not because the kids are around. I love having the kids around. I love that our days are a little more free and we don't have school schedules to work around. I start to feel overwhelmed. I start to feel overwhelmed because I like structure, I like routine, and that first couple weeks of summer break, there really is no structure and no routine because we're all kind of embracing the we don't have to have a structure and a routine. And usually by July, I'm just kind of down in the dumps because I need a little structure and routine. So kind of hitting the reset button on how my perspective on things was working and how I was looking at planning things really gave me a good boost as far as, I had like no new ideas for anything in June. I just had really hit this, and I do it every summer. I knew it was coming. I do it every summer, and summer's also my least favorite time of year, honestly. I love fall and winter. Look at me. Mike calls me the Nordic Queen. I obviously have a lot of Nordic blood in my gene pool. So, and we've had a beautiful summer. It hasn't been that hot, but I generally just, it's not my favorite time of year anyway. and then add overwhelm to it and this feeling of like I'm not getting enough done and malaise, and it's just a bad mixture. So One Book July came at a really, really good time for me. So enough babbling. I will flip this around and I will show you kind of my wrap up, what I took from One Book July and how I implemented it. And you guys please do the same, okay? Thank you so much. You enjoy the rest of your day. And tomorrow, I may as well tell you this now, the August surprise that I've been kind of dangling in front of you guys and teasing you with, and that Romany called me a meanie because I hadn't told anybody about, the video for that posts tomorrow, Saturday, August 2nd, okay? So if it is not Saturday, August 2nd yet, and you are watching this, look for that tomorrow. And if it is after Saturday, August 2nd, go look for it. If you go to the blog at carrieharling.com, I'm going to pin the post for that August surprise right at the top. Okay? Thanks so much, guys. You take it easy. Bye-bye. Okay, guys. So here's what I took from One Book July personally, just me. Aside from all the fun of watching everybody else's setups, and I hope I'm not talking too fast because if you guys can hear that, it's thundering. And I can finally see the clouds where the thunder is coming from. So I'm going to try to beat the thunder. So what I took from One Book July, first of all, was this. If I were to carry a small book like this all the time, I would absolutely have to change what kind of bag I'm carrying. And I'm not a big purse and shoes kind of gal. I'm just not. I just never really have been. So I have like one bag that I carry all summer. I have another bag that I carry during the school year just because I'm working on the go more. So, and I showed that bag in my mobile office video. That's the one I carry all school year just because I am on the go working more. It's a bigger tote bag. In the summer I tend to carry, it's just kind of a purse. It's a fairly decent kind of tote bag / purse. It's a little bit floppy, and having this in there versus something like this, that purse had a lot less structure and was very floppy just because this didn't take up as much space inside. So that kind of got to me, but I fiddled with some things in there and got that taken care of. Had nothing to do at all with the book. It just, I was used to having more structure in the bag because I had a bigger notebook in there. One thing, as I said, I learned going from a structured format of inserts to something that I sketched out by myself, that I really had to think about how I wanted it to work and how it would work with my brain, did me a world of good. And I love my DIY fish inserts. I missed them desperately during July. But going back to square one like this reminded me how much I need to sit down with a blank page and get everything out of my head and then organize it into a format that works for my brain, which for me is those DIY fish inserts. I had totally gotten away from doing that. So because I was reminded of how much I need that, and you guys saw this in my Field Notes for Dory setup, but that is what this notebook is for. This notebook is just look at that. Just on the 29th, there was all of this stuff just tumbling around in my brain, tumbling around in my brain, tumbling around. And I am not likely to go into something like this and just throw it in there, because maybe in the notes section, but I don't want to lose it. I don't want to forget it. And if I put it up in here in my reference notebook, I may not go back and look at it if I'm not careful. When I have one place for something like this to just get it all out, I'll remember that and I will go back and check it. Does that make sense? So that was kind of my biggest thing. And that goes hand in hand with that hitting the reset button idea. The other thing I learned is I want to really start tracking my time again. I was doing, it doesn't look like it because in July I purposely wasn't coding as much. I was focusing, on the kids a lot more. So there are days in here where I went back in and wrote at the end of the day, wrote back in stuff that I had read, stuff that I had done. I honestly went back, wrote it in and checked it off so I would remember what day I had done it. It's kind of like a little daily review. And I need that. I need to make sure I'm taking 5 minutes or less at the end of the day and doing a daily review. And that is where this came from. Okay? And I'm going to do a separate video on this, but when I am looking forward at my day, And I learned this from One Book July as well. I like a vertical format. My brain works well with a vertical format for times like this, so that I can see where things are overlapping. I've been through that before with you guys, just explaining why I like a vertical setup. I have multiple columns going for multiple people, who needs to be where when, because right now I'm still driving pretty much everybody everywhere. I need to see where there are overlaps, if there are going to be issues picking somebody up or dropping somebody off. I see that a lot better when they're all lined up next to each other, okay? But that gets pretty full. So if I were to slot in, oh, from this time to this time I did this as a daily review, that gets messy really quickly. Aside from that, for some reason, and I don't understand this, but for my brain, looking back at the end of the day, I think like this. I think in a clock fashion, like the Chronodex. Okay? I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. So when I'm looking ahead at the day, I like a vertical format. I can see where the overlaps are. I have plenty of space to fit in multiple columns right next to each other for different people's schedules. But there's not a whole lot of room in there. And depending on how much note space I'm taking up over here, I could draw an arrow, but I may take that space up and I won't have that space to track what I did. Okay, and my tasks will go over here. They'll be check marked off, so I'll be able to see what I did. But if I'm trying to allocate time to a certain project and it's not getting done, I need to really look at how I'm spending my time and see where I can take time from one thing to give to a project that might need to get done. Okay, for me, looking ahead, that vertical format, seeing the overlaps works well. Looking back, a clock format works well. So this is my end of the day review. How did I spend my time? Just my time, because that's why this does not work for me looking ahead. Because I have so many people's schedules in my planner, I would have to have multiple colors and all these different overlapping. Those overlaps on a clock don't work in my brain. Vertically, they work fine. On a clock, this gets messy. I tried on one of these to put in everybody's schedule on like a typical school day, and like one of them had to work and one person had practice, and it was a disaster. So just for me, keeping our daily schedule on here doesn't work. I need that vertical format, but looking back, this is how my brain works. I think like a clock when I'm reviewing my day. So that's another thing I learned from One Book July. From going through and writing in the things that I had done, I kind of inadvertently started doing a daily review again. And so that's what this booklet came from. That's encouraging me to do a daily review. The reading journal was in there before, so that's I've always kept some sort of little notes about where I am in a book, so I don't have to spend too much time skimming. And the third thing I learned was that I really like writing in this size, as far as essays and whatnot. Journaling, that kind of thing. I don't do like a, as Kate would put it, like a Dear Diary type of journal. I just never, I've tried it like 1,000 times. It just doesn't work for me, and I don't even know why. It just doesn't. But just kind of writing down what I'm thinking about. I like the size. I'm far more likely to write on here than I am in something maybe this size. And this size isn't too bad to journal in either. I would normally have like this big book, and then I would I didn't realize how intimidated I got by a blank page. Never gave it a thought. And that's exactly what it is. I would just sit there and stare at it and think, why am I spending time trying to do this? I obviously don't know how to do it, or or I'm doing it wrong, which is so not the attitude to have. Whatever you're doing, if you're happy doing it in your journal, then you're doing it right. Your right is going to be completely different than somebody else's right. And there aren't many things in life that you can say that about. So I was shocked at how much I liked this size. I never would have thought that I would enjoy a book this size as much as I do. I love the format of this. So those are the things I learned from One Book July, and that is how those things affected the setup of these things. So again, make sure you show us, okay? Show us a little wrap-up of what you learned, what you liked, what you didn't like, and how you took what you learned and implemented it going forward. Keep using that hashtag OneBookJuly2014 so that we can find all your good stuff, okay? And I am now going to go in before it rains on me. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.